Hello, welcome. My name is Jiso and we're reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō. We're on chapter 12, about halfway through, Kesa kudoku, the merits of the Kesa. And I probably won't finish it today, we'll just see how far we get. Coarse cotton cloth is the standard material for making the Kesa. When there is no coarse cotton cloth, we use fine cotton cloth. When there is neither coarse nor fine cotton cloth, we use plain silk. When there is neither plain silk nor cotton cloth, materials such as patterned cloth or sheer silk may be used. These are all approved by the Tathagata. For countries where there is no plain silk, cotton, patterned cloth, sheer silk, or anything of the kind, the Tathagata also permits the leather Kesa. Generally, we should dye the Kesa blue, yellow, red, black, or purple. Whatever colour it is, we should make it a secondary colour. The Tathagata always wore a flesh-coloured Kesa. This was the colour of the Kesa. The Buddha's Kesa, transmitted by the first patriarch, was blue-black and made of the cotton crepe of the western heavens. It is now on Sōkai-zan mountain. It was transmitted 28 times in the western heavens and transmitted 5 times in China. Now the surviving disciples of the eternal Buddha of Sōkai, who have all received and retained the ancient customs of the Buddha's robe, are beyond other monks. Broadly, there are 3 kinds of robe. 1, the robe of rags. 2, the robe of fur, and 3, the patched robe. Rags are as explained previously. In the robe of fur, the fine down and hair of birds and beasts is called fur. When practitioners cannot obtain rags, they pick up this fur and make it into the robe. The patched robe describes our sewing and patching and wearing, cloth that has become ragged and worn with age. We do not wear the fine clothes of the secular world. The venerable monk Upali asks the world-honoured one, "World-honoured Bhadanta, how many stripes does the Samgati robe have?" The Buddha says there are 9 kinds. What are the 9 kinds? They are the Samgati robe of 9 stripes, 11 stripes, 13 stripes, 15 stripes, 17 stripes, 19 stripes, 21 stripes, 23 stripes, and 25 stripes. The first 3 of those kinds of Samgati robe have 2 long segments and 1 short segment in each stripe, and we should keep the standard like this. The next 3 kinds have 3 long segments and 1 short, and the last 3 kinds have 4 long and 1 short. Anything with more segments per stripe than this becomes an unorthodox robe. Upali again addresses the world-honoured one. "World-honoured Bhadanta, how many kinds of Samgati robe are there?" The Buddha says there are 3 kinds, larger, medium, and smaller. The larger is 3 cubits long by 5 cubits wide. And there's a note there about how big a cubit is. A cubit is an elbow, meaning forearm or cubit. So is that from there to there then? Is that a cubit? 5 cubits wide. Smaller is 2.5 cubits long and 4.5 cubits wide. Anything between those is called medium. Upala again addresses the world-honoured one. "World-honoured Bhadanta, how many stripes does the Uttarasanga robe have?" Uttara Sangha robe have. The Buddha says it has only 7 stripes, each with 2 long segments and 1 short segment. That's the kind of Kesa that I've just nearly finished making. Upali again addresses the world-honoured one. "World-honoured Bhadanta, how many kinds of 7-striped robe are there?" The Buddha says there are 3 kinds, larger, medium, and smaller. The larger is 3 cubits by 5, the smaller is half cubit shorter on each side, and anything between these two is medium. Upali again addresses the world-honoured one. World-honoured Vedanta, how many stripes does the Antarvasa robe have? The Buddha says it has 5 stripes, each with one long segment and one short segment. Upali again addresses the world-honoured one. How many kinds of Antarvasa robe are there? The Buddha says there are 3 kinds, larger, medium and smaller. The larger is 3 cubits by 5, the medium and smaller are as before. The Buddha says there are 2 further kinds of Antarvasa robe. What are those 2? The first is 2 cubits long by 5 cubits wide, and the second is 2 cubits long by 4 cubits wide. The Samgati is translated as the double-layered robe. The Uttara Samga is translated as the upper robe, and the Antarvasa is translated as the underrobe or the inner robe. At the same time, the Samgati robe is called the large robe, and also called the robe for entering royal palaces, or the robe for preaching the Dharma. The Uttara Samga is called the 7-striped robe or the middle robe, or the robe for going among the Sangha. The Antarvasa is called the 5-striped robe, or called the small robe, or the robe for practicing the truth and for doing work. We should guard and retain these 3 robes without fail. Among Sangati robes is the Kesa of 60 stripes, which also deserves to be received and retained without fail. In general, the length of a Buddha's body depends on the span of its lifetime, which is between 80,000 years and 100 years. That's a very big range. Some say that there are differences between 80,000 years and 100 years, while others say that they may be equal. We esteem the insistence that they may be equal as the authentic tradition. The body measurements of Buddhas and of human beings are very different. The human body can be measured, but the Buddha body ultimately cannot be measured. Therefore, in the present moment in which Shakyamuni Buddha puts on the Kesa of Kasyapa Buddha, the Kesa is not long and not wide. And in the present moment in which Maitreya Tathagata puts on the Kesa of Shakyamuni Buddha, it is not short and not narrow. We should reflect upon clearly, decide conclusively, understand completely, and observe carefully that the Buddha body is not long or short. King Brahma, though high in the world of matter, does not see the crown of the Buddha's head. Modigliana, having gone far into the world of the bright banner, does not discern the Buddha's voice. It is truly a mystery that the Buddha's form and voice are the same whether seen and heard from near or far. All the merits of the Tathagata are like this, and we should keep these merits in mind. As regards methods of cutting out and sewing the Kesa, there is the robe of separate stripes, the robe of added stripes, the robe of pleated stripes, and the single sheet robe, each of which is a proper method. We should receive and retain the kind of robe that accords with the material obtained. The Buddha says, the Kesa of the Buddhas of the 3 times is invariably backstitched. In obtaining the material again, we consider pure material to be good, and we consider so-called filthy rags to be the purest of all. The Buddhas of the 3 times all consider rags to be pure. In addition, cloth offered by devout donors is also pure. There again, cloth bought at a market with pure money is also pure. There are limits on the number of days within which the robe should be made, but in the present degenerate age of the latter Dharma in a remote country, it may be better for us to receive and to retain the robe by doing the cutting and sewing whenever we are prompted by belief. It is an ultimate secret of the great vehicle that lay people, whether human beings or gods, receive and retain the Kesa. King Brahma and King Sakra have now both received and retained the Kesa, and these are excellent precedents in the worlds of volition and matter. Excellent precedents in the human world, are beyond calculation. All lay bodhisattvas have received and retained the Kesa. In China, Emperor Bu of the Liang dynasty and Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty both received and retained the Kesa. The Emperors Daiso and Shukuso both wore the Kesa, learned in practice from monks, and received and retained the bodhisattva precepts. Other people, such as householders and their wives, who received the Kesa and received the Buddhist precepts, are excellent examples in the past and present. In Japan, when Prince Shotoku received and retained the Kesa and lectured on such sutras as the Lotus Sutra and the Srimala Sutra, he experienced the miraculous omen of precious flowers raining from the heavens. From that time, the Buddha Dharma spread throughout our country. Though Prince Shotoku was the regent of the whole country, he was just a guiding teacher to human beings and gods. As the Buddha's emissary, he was father and mother to many living beings. In our country today, although the materials, colours and measurements of the Kesa have all been misunderstood, that we can see and hear the word Kesa is due solely to the power of Prince Shotoku. We would be in a sorry state today if, at that time, he had not destroyed the false and established the true. Later, the Emperor Shomu also received and retained the Kesa and received the bodhisattva precepts. Therefore, whether we are emperors or subjects, we should receive and retain the Kesa, and we should receive the bodhisattva precepts without delay. There can be no greater happiness for a human body. It has been said that the Kesas received and retained by lay people are either called single-stitched or called secular robes. That is, they are not sewn with backstitches. It is also said that when lay people go to a place of practicing the truth, they should be equipped with the 3 Dharma robes, a willow twig, rinsing water, mealware, and a sitting cloth. They should practice the same pure practices as bhikshus. Such were the traditions of a master in the past. However, the tradition that has now been received one-to-one from the Buddhist patriarchs is that the Kesas transmitted to kings, ministers, householders, and common folk are all backstitched. An excellent precedent is that Master Daikan Ino had already received the authentic transmission of the Buddha's Kesa as the temple servant Ro. In general, the Kesa is the banner of a disciple of the Buddha. If we have already received and retained the Kesa, we should humbly receive it upon the head every day. Placing it on the crown of the head, we join the hands and recite the following verse. How great is the clothing of liberation, formless field of happiness, robe, devoutly wearing the Tathagata's teaching, widely I will save living beings. After that we put it on. In the Kesa, we should feel like our master and should feel like a tower. We also recite this verse when we humbly receive the Kesa on the head after washing it. The Buddha says, when we shave the head and wear the Kesa, we are protected by the Buddhas. Each person who transcends family life is served by gods and men. Clearly, once we have shaved the head and put on the Kesa, we are protected by all the Buddhas. Relying on the protection of the Buddhas, a person can roundly realize the virtues of the supreme state of Bodhi. Celestial throngs and human multitudes serve offerings to such a person. Thanks for listening.